If you ever stood on the edge of Vancouver Island and looked into the water, looked into the sea, and wondered what's down there, you're asking the right question for today's topic. Because what lives in these waters is not only surprising, but it can actually change your view of the island and really what's here and what it has to offer. Today we're diving into the secret world of what lies beneath in the sea around Vancouver Island. From the smallest little sea anemone to the giants that are in the water here. So if you're planning a visit here, or you're planning to move here, or you're just curious, this is a little bit of an introductory guide to the rich marine ecosystem found right here on Vancouver Island. So let's start where the land meets the sea in tide pools. So those little puddles that are left behind when the tide goes out, they're kind of like nature's little aquarium. They can be full of surprises and life. If you look closely, you'll be able to spot perhaps little green sea anemones. And they kind of look like underwater flowers, but they're nothing to be really worried of. They're not intimidating at all. And then as well, we have purple and orange ochre sea stars, or commonly referred to as starfish by many. You'll see them in abundance here, clinging to the rocks. And then there's a lot of tiny little shore crabs that'll be running around, scuttling around. And sometimes you'll even catch the flash in these tide pools of a little sculpin. And that's just a small little fish that really camouflages itself well. If you're not moving, it might not move. But it's a little fish that's found in these tide pools very commonly. Now, if you go out a little bit deeper, the diversity of what you'll see really explodes. And this is where the waters come alive. First off, you'll notice in abundance harbor seals. They're really everywhere. It's not like it's necessarily a huge problem. You'll see them resting on rocks, popping their little head out of the water and watching you as you paddle by on your kayak, or watching you as you have a little beach fire on the beach. Their big dark eyes, they're really curious. They're cute. They don't just pop up and see what you're doing and go away. It's kind of funny how they like to stick around and just really see what you're doing. They float on their backs. They crack shellfish with rocks. It's actually one of the few animals that in the world that uses tools. And if you're lucky, this is rare, but you might even see them wrapping themselves in kelp, like a seaweed sleeping bag, so that they don't drift away when they nap. It's actually something they do that's pretty cool. Now, if you go a little bit deeper, you'll find even more. Something that's around here is the giant Pacific octopus. It lives in rocky crevices. It's intelligent, as we know. It's one of the most intelligent sea creatures out there. It's shy. It can change its color and texture in a matter of seconds. And they can get quite large, as the name would imply, the giant Pacific octopus. They can weigh up to 110 pounds. And if you were to stretch out their arms, 30 feet across. Then there's also the lion's mane jellyfish with their long tentacles that can be found in the waters here. They're beautiful, they move slowly, they're otherworldly, drifting along silently through the current. They're beautiful to see, but if you're surfing, they're a bit of a pain, of course, so you'd be wanting to wear a wetsuit, absolutely, if you're on the Tofino side or down in Souk, Jordan's River at that surf beach. Now, of course, we can't talk about Vancouver Island's sea life without mentioning some of its biggest residents. The orcas, killer whales. They travel the waters around here actually year-round. You might see them breaching or hear their calls on a hydrophone if you book one of those whale-watching tour excursions. And as well, there are humpbacks. They are massive. These gentle giants, they migrate through here each summer. They slap their fins, they show their tails, and sometimes if you're lucky, you'll be able to see one do a full breach out of the water. Other common mammals include the Dall's porpoise. They're super fast. Where I see them often is actually racing along the ferry. If I'm on the ferry, it's quite often to see these dolphins racing behind a BC ferry. Then we also have the massive Cellar sea lions. There's some outcroppings of little rock islands that they're really commonly parked on, and you'll see them barking and bickering and hauling out. It's pretty cool to see too. Now, I referred to kelp forests. They are quite common to see here. They line a lot of the island's coastline. Underneath these kelp forests, it's super impressive. From the top, it just looks like weeds breaching, right? But if you were lucky enough to, say, be scuba diving or see some underwater footage, it creates this underwater jungle that is a different habitat where different life, different sea life thrives in the coverage that the jungle of these kelp forests provide. So if you look closely, you'll see rockfish hiding in these crevices. You'll see colorful nudibranch, so that's those wild, frilly sea slug type things crawling along the blades of the kelp, and then Pacific herring like to weave in and out, and of course sea otters too. So what really blows my mind is how much we miss by just seeing the top of the ocean. It's a common saying to say it's a different world underneath there, but it really is. There's so much going on that we're just really not privy to being on top of the water. The sea life here on Vancouver Island is more than just beautiful to me. It's really interconnected again with the ecosystem and what island living means and what it has to offer. So the next time you're walking a beach, you look out at the ocean, remember that the world isn't just what you see above the water. There's a whole nother life ecosystem world going on beneath it. And if you take the time to go out and discover it, there's a lot that you'll for certain appreciate. If you're thinking about moving to Vancouver Island, or even if you're just visiting, I'm confident that you'll love it as much as myself and my family do. If you are considering moving out this way and you'd like help looking at homes, feel free to reach out to myself, to my team. We're here on the island and we're ready to help.